Chapter 117 and 118. Ray moaned as he woke up, feeling somebody laying on his chest. He half opened his eyes and relaxed when he spotted the messy and tangled mess of blue hair enter his vision. Clearly, they took it a bit too far with Conan yesterday night and both fainted. Releasing a deep sigh of relief, Ray put his hand on Conan's head and gently caressed her hair, carefully to not wake her up, causing her to snuggle more into his chest. He would chuckle if his mind didn't freeze as he spotted May standing next to their bed with her arms crossed and exaggerated pout on her lips, while her eyes were trying to drill a hole through Ray's face. Hi. He awkwardly greeted her, scrunching his eyebrows. Oh, what are you doing here, May? May only jealously huffed as she turned her head towards the still sleeping Conan, who was blissfully sprawled on Ray's chest with a megawatt smile, her hands possessively around his waist. Ray saw May let out a small whine before she turned around towards the door, and her back now faced the duo lying in the bed. I just came to inform you that you were called to the Mizuki's office, she sullenly said before stiffly walking out. Is she jealous? Ray wondered in amusement. Ray, Conan, and still sullen May walked into the office of the Mizuki and couldn't help but wonder how much it changed with Himino not being around. The first thing they noticed was the air becoming stale and stuffy. The Mizuki most likely didn't open the window often. The room was not really messy. It was tidied up but didn't give the feeling of proper care, and neither was there the vibe of superiority that was always present when Himino was there to tend to it. Frankly, the woman knew exactly how to arrange things for people to feel small or insignificant when in her presence, and something was clearly missing in the room to give it that important vibe of it belonging to someone important. Further in the room, Mizuki was wrestling with stacks of paperwork. He no longer looked cheery. Rather, he had a weary look and black circles under his eyes as he sat with his shoulders slumped while filling out form after a form. Ray could understand why the council wanted him to name a successor. The man was ruined and lost his drive. A team downpour reporting as ordered, Ray stated, snapping the Mizuki from his reverie, causing him to look up at them. His eyes were quite dull and sleepy, making Ray frown. This was really not the man who welcomed them in Kirigakure years ago. It was almost sad. Hi. Sure, I wanted to hear how your mission went, the Mizuki stated hollowly, no longer having that vicious bite in his tone that always produced witty arguments between them. Ray frowned at that. He enjoyed their verbal sparring. It wouldn't do if the man completely folded. Nevertheless, he started explaining what happened. Wait, you used pranks to get attention in Tenera? Mizuki shrieked. I ordered you to destroy it. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I most assuredly did. The Mizuki spat with a venom lacing his tone as he gave Ray a scathing glare. Oh, well, I must have forgotten, then, Ray said with a light, uncaring tone, making the Mizuki groan. But the mission was a success nevertheless. We stalled hundreds of ninja and thousands of samurai, so not like anyone can complain. Well, anyone besides the inhabitants of Tenera, since they were the victims of our witty and nefarious plans on how to screw Konoha over. I think we did an incredible job since most of them are jobless and penniless. Ray finished with a beaming, innocent smile that made somehow the Mizuki aware Ray was angry with him at being given such a mission. The Mizuki called out almost pleadingly. You are a ninja, act like it. Ray's smile dropped and complete seriousness filled the room. Sure, you are also a ninja, act like it too, then. The world stilled as the Mizuki and Ray stared into each other's eyes before the Mizuki chuckled. His chuckles slowly morphed into snickers before becoming small laughter and ending up as full-blown, unrestrained laughter as the man banged his fist on the table, hunched over from stomach pains due to laughing. All members of Team Downpour were just awkwardly standing in front of his desk, staring at the apparently new madman until he finished with his practice of mad laughing. Was I too straightforward? Ray thought worriedly. Did he crack? Conan thought in amusement. Somehow, I am suddenly glad we are leaving Kiri, May thought as she gave the Mizuki a weirded out look. The Mizuki finally stopped laughing, and only an occasional chuckle left his lips as he tried to calm down. Thank you for that, Ray. I needed the reminder. So he didn't go crazy. Such a pity, all three members of Team Downpour thought ruefully. Outwardly, Ray just nodded in acknowledgement. Now, care to explain why one of my genin is marked as SS rank by Iwagakure? The Mizuki glanced at May before he turned to Ray with his left eye twitching in irritation and exasperation. The Iwagakure is crazy? Ray tried to sound innocent, but the Mizuki instantly gave him a deadpan stare. Fine. She fought 10,000 enemies. Ray shrugged. The Mizuki could only groan again. Why does it have to be always so difficult with you? He idly asked, not expecting an answer, but Ray obliged nevertheless. Because I am special. The silence became deafening in the room, and it took a few seconds before the Mizuki started speaking again. Right. Anyway, we fought 10,000 people is not an answer, Ray. But I didn't say we fought them. I said she fought them. That stopped the Mizukage short, causing him to be completely flabbergasted. Wait. You want to tell me that a genin managed to win against Dash? Yup, Ray interrupted. I am apparently a marvelous teacher. He gave the Mizukage a thumbs up before Conan swatted him on the shoulder while barely restraining her snickers. May had no such problem and openly laughed at Mizukage's expression. Maybe Ray really was a bad influence? Nah, that couldn't be it. The Mizukage looked from May to Ray and back before his eyes settled at Conan. Is it the truth? Oi. Ray rebuked, annoyed at being doubted, but both Conan and the Mizukage just ignored him. Yes. Conan stoically said with a nod. I see. Fine. The Mizukage sighed. I want a full report on that battle on my table in a week at most. You are dismissed, he said and returned to his paperwork with a lighter and happier look. Really, I am such a good therapist. Ray proudly thought to himself only to receive another swat on the shoulder from Conan, who instinctively felt her lover was thinking something stupid. Ray, Conan, and May sat in the living room of their flat, recounting what they have to do before finally leaving Kiri for good. The biggest problem was May's report to the Mizukage, since they doubted they would be allowed to go on a mission before May handed that to the Mizukage. In the end, Conan proposed to make use of the Mizukage's busy schedule and Ray accepted, which basically meant they would be leaving Kiri at the end of the week, right after May handed her report. This made their schedule quite packed for the following week. First, Conan made sure to spread her papers everywhere in the village, put them into hidden spots all in order to be informed. She even created a new jutsu, a special type of paper clone that could access all these spying papers in the Kirigakure and had her own intelligence to determine what was and what was not important to report. The entire clone was powered by natural energy, so it could last indefinitely until it was cancelled. Funnily enough, despite the council knowing Conan could manipulate paper, nobody really paid attention or even tried to find out the limits of it. Nobody had even an inkling she could spy through it. The best they could imagine her doing was cutting things with it, which was plain dumb in Conan's opinion. If anything, earth hardening was much better for offense than wind sharpening. This ignorance made it incredibly easy for Conan to become aware of almost everything important that was going on in Kirigakure. Not even 3 days later, she brought the news of where exactly was the sealed three-tailed beast hidden to Ray, but he just shrugged, deciding they will get its chakra later when it actually had a Jinchuriki. Even Conan didn't understand yet why Ray told her to create such a massive information network in Kirigakure. He naturally wanted to get some clans for himself once the purge started, and without knowing when to rescue them, any effort from his part would be useless. Needless to say, Ray wouldn't have that if he could help it. As for May, she decided to stay the entire week indoors if only to avoid the idiotic and bothersome fawning of the villagers. She was not blind and could see the great fear they had for her in their eyes and how fake their acting was. Maizamazis, Maizamazet. May-sama, you look so wonderful. May-sama, you are so powerful. Who did the idiots think they were fooling when not even a half-year earlier they were all glaring and sneering at her? Seriously, only an utterly brainless idiot would be happy for getting recognition from people who clearly hated him and believed it was real when they switched their cloaks and became nice out of nowhere after he or she performed some meritorious deed for the village. May would rather have none of it rather than have some fake recognition. Ray spent the week browsing through the library and discreetly storing any jutsu scroll he found interesting or useful. His kleptomaniacal craze was stopped only after 5 days when the library was flooded by ninjas looking for clues who was stealing their scrolls after they finally noticed something amiss. Ray wondered what it was. The completely empty shelf in the B-rank jutsu section, the fact that 20 A-rank jutsu were currently unaccounted for, or the collection of cookbooks from the civilian section he took for fun. Personally, he suspected it was the cooking books. Jutsu were overrated, after all. The week finally passed and the team Downpour Sans May found themselves at their personal training ground, ready to embark on another mission. Unknown to the Kirigakure, their last one for the village. May finally arrived and huffed in discontent. These stupid tunants at the mission center had the cheek to ask me why I am taking mission right after handing the report from Mizukage before he could even assess it. Conan just chuckled at the clearly vexed girl while Ray rolled his eyes. You know it's their job. It really is suspicious, and you know we had you take the mission because as the newest SS rank, the tunants won't give you any trouble in fear of it backfiring later. Maybe so, but still. May angrily stomped her foot on the ground before averting her gaze and crossing her arms under her developing chest. I should have melted them. Ray gained a mischievous smile and approached May. Before she could react, May found her cheeks being pinched by Ray as he smugly raised an eyebrow at her, causing her to blush and try to pull away from him. Don't be arrogant, May. Ray ruffled her hair. Or I and Conan will have to beat the arrogance out of you. You won't enjoy it. He warned her, happy to see her flinch, taking it as an assurance she understood. Well, then Ray was about to turn around to leave when he was surprised by a person approaching them from the tree line. All three of them instantly put their guard up. To their utter shock, it was Ringo who was unsurely approaching them, a bag slung on her back, her face looking pensive while her hands held the handle of 2 swords around her waist in a fond manner. "E-O-E." She uncomfortably greeted them, getting a raised eyebrow from Conan, a piercing look from May, and a slightly concerned frown from Ray. Before any of the three could start speaking, Ringo decided it would be better if she explained herself first. I know you are leaving Kirigakura and I want to go with you," she said, feeling her stomach sink, as she for the first time uttered out loud what she was doing. She was turning traitor. It was almost physically sickening for her to even think about it, but Kirigakura betrayed her first. In the end, Tsunade was correct. Ringo had to choose, and after many sleepless nights, this was her answer. Ringo expected questions, bewilderment, protests, demands to prove what he said to be the truth, so she was naturally floored when she was met with shrugs and clicking of the tongue from May as Conan smugly outstretched her hand, palm up, towards the girl, and the peeved May handed over a pouch to the smug Conan. Conan saw Ringo's jaw drop as May gave her the winnings of their little bet and amusedly smirked in her direction. "Hear what? I know everything that's going on in Kirigakura. Did you really believe I wouldn't be aware of your internal debate? I just didn't know if you would get your shit together before we left or if you would defect later in order to find Ray." Conan rolled her eyes while May scoffed, clearly not believing Ringo would defect later. Conan ignored May and continued. "You love Ray, and with the way the Mizukage treated you and the fact that Tsunade set you straight, making you face your feelings for Ray and weigh them to those for the village. Yes. Our resident manipulator knew what would happen. We get it." May interrupted, while her eye was fiercely twitching. "Frankly, I am watching you, Ringo," she said, stating her intentions and distrust towards the former wielder of Kiba. Ringo mutely nodded, knowing she really deserved that one for her blind loyalty to Kirigakura, as she turned to the most important person from the team downpour, Ray. He was watching her with his pointed piercing look as if looking into her soul. This was no longer the happy-go-lucky, witty, and mostly carefree teacher who taught Ringo most of what she knew. This was a ninja who was showing her he didn't trust her fully despite their past student-teacher relationship. It broke Ringo's heart a bit to be doubted by the man she loved, but in the end, with the way she always acted, it was natural and she would be greatly disappointed if he just accepted her. After a while, Ray threw something at Ringo, who caught it and opened her hand to reveal a small ring, making her give Ray a questioning look. It's a camouflage ring with seals that will mask your chakra signature completely. If you want to come with us, you will have to get through every sensor and sealing barrier around the village since you did not take the mission with us," Ray said and turned around. Just like that, their final journey away from Kirigakura started. Ray was told long ago what Tsunade did for Ringo and that the final decision was on the girl herself. Ringo chose, and there was nothing to talk about. He would just respect it and see where that led them. In the end, no matter how he tried to just let it go, he still liked the girl he basically raised and made into a respected killer.